But so far, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the presentation.
Which got him.
Dude, yes. Oh my god, we're doing the female orgasm newsletter. Oh my god. Where's the lie? Where's the lie? Excuse me? Voice critical, got him. This is just like sellout rationalization. That's not even, I don't even think this is true. This is awesome. Now this is awesome. It's not meant to be playful. It's art, Tom. It's art, okay? But here's the really important part, okay, guys? As you all know, I am a huge Mr. Girl fan, okay? We may not agree with every single thing, just a lot of it, but I am a huge fan. I think his content was amazing when it was on YouTube, and still is while he's off YouTube at Mr. Girl TV. But TurkeyTom has just released a video. You don't use Brave lol. Shut up. I will use my Chinese spyware browser until I die. Thank you. Thank you. And it'll never load a YouTube video the first time I ask it to. Now, am I expecting much from this video? No. I expect nothing from this video. I am honestly, anytime, if you tell me a commentary YouTuber is talking about Mr. Girl, I immediately brace for the dumbest, lowest effort engagement that could ever happen, that will ever happen. That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting actual, like, 70 IQ. That is where I'm expecting this to go. So if TurkeyTom manages to be in any way reasonable here, he's gonna blow my expectations out of the water. Not that I even know this is TurkeyTom's video. It could be, you know, his 5 Indonesian researchers and the team of editors that he's swept up from 2K sub channels that couldn't make it. But let's see. Hey, let's have a look. Let's give it a chance. Maybe he'll surprise us. He's gonna hopefully have all of Mr. Girl's early stuff here. I think if you look through Mr. Girl's history, you come out with a bit of a different perspective on him, I think. If you actually go through everything and look at all the crazy stunts he pulled, it seems less like, oh, this guy's a pedophile, and more like this guy's a provocateur. But let's see.
Cuties was a Netflix production that was widely criticized for its inappropriate depictions of underage actors, to put it mildly. Amidst all of the backlash, however, one man disagreed.
Well, that's not true, actually. That's not true, because he said it was unethical to produce. So he actually did think it was inappropriate to put children in those situations. He thinks the movie shouldn't have been made in the way that it was made. He just said that it was a good movie.
This film does try to make you sexually aroused by 11-year-olds. I'll say it's not bad at
Yes, also it wasn't just Sneeko. It wasn't just Mr. Girl, it was Sneeko too.
Max Carson, or Mr. Girl as he's known online, was attacked by the internet at large for his review. But what they didn't know was that his opinion on Cuties was just the tip of the iceberg. It's a story that involves sex dolls, school shooters, domestic abuse, diss tracks, and psychological warfare, all from a man that fully believes deep down.
The reviews for the film outside the meme backlash weren't that bad either. No, Deep, you don't understand. Every journalist and elite and everyone who's ever had anything published anywhere is actually a pedophile. They're all trying to make kids get raped because everyone in any position of power is a pedophile. By the way, I'm not a Nazi.
We're all exactly the same. Long before Max's disturbing opinions became known online, he was already a certifiably disturbed person, to say the least. He recalls reading books on how to pleasure women when he was just 7 or 8 years old, as well as teaching all of his friends how to crank it in middle school. For this kind of behavior to manifest that early, you'd think there was some kind of dysfunctional parenting involved in his upbringing. And sure enough, there's information pointing to that. His father, a psychologist who was, at some point...
they're definitely strange parenting.
Hired as an expert witness on child mistreatment, directly told Max that he wanted to strangle him. Due to his father hating him, he ended up living with his mother, which led to another set of issues entirely. He's claimed multiple times that his mom was attracted to him.
And it felt like she was constantly making little comments or jokes.
He even says in one of his rap songs that she put a big soft wet kiss on his neck.
Or insisting on having sexual conversations with me, touching me in ways that I was uncomfortable with.
I wanted to recoil from her. Like being in the car, I would be pressed against the door, never wanted to hug her. I would feel like I would want to wash it off if she touched me, if she looked at me, just constantly feeling violated.
He then goes on to explain that when he was 10 years old, his mother was married to another woman and that they both teamed up against him, constantly nitpicking everything he did and accusing him of being a sexist. According to him, this happened anytime he displayed slightly aggressive behavior, which
God, that is actually possibly the worst. Like, I don't think we've ever appreciated before how much that is the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen to a teenage guy, is having your mom become a lesbian, and then you're having to live with two women. You're having to live with two women. You're being raised by two women, dude.
On purpose just to get a rise out of him. When his father told him his mother might just not like him, Max decided to confront his mom about it, and she responded by telling him he needed to leave the house and go live with his dad. Following that situation, the family went to see two different therapists, one of whom took her side, and another who met with Max in private, and told him that he was probably right and his mom disliked him. As a result, Max stopped talking to his mom for a year and a half until they happened to see each other on the street and developed a polite but distant relationship. When he was 14, his mother told him that when people have intercourse, women get hurt, which gave him a strong sense of guilt. As a result, whenever he would spank the monkey while thinking about someone, he felt that he had to tell them afterwards to make it right. When he did it to people he couldn't talk to, like women in adult movies, he resorted to kissing the screen as a way to show affection toward them. This also made it so that he couldn't have a relationship for a very long time. Eventually, when Max was in college, he started having questions about himself. He suspected that his inability to have healthy relationships with women was a result of his unresolved trauma with his mother. So
this is a good lead up here. This is actually, I'm enjoying this so far. I wonder how, you know, we'll see how it goes when he starts getting into more controversial things. See if Tom presents it fairly and whether he engages with it at all, or if he says he's not going to engage with it and moves on, whether he tries to frame it in a certain way. We'll see. But so far, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the presentation.
Decided to send her an email explaining how he felt about her since she kicked him out. She responded, saying that part of the reason she kicked him out was that she was attracted to him and afraid that she was going to act on it. When he told the rest of the family about what she'd said in an email, none of them believed it, and they all excused it as her misspeaking or simply trying to be provocative, which strongly contributed to him cutting ties with his entire family. In order to appropriately cover his college years and the things he got up to, we have to contextualize by delving deeper into his high school years. Max describes the city he lived in as extremely progressive, to the point that his parents were—
You already know everything about this guy? Yeah, pretty much. I've seen most of his content, so yeah.
were divorced, his mother came out as lesbian, his mom's wife picked him up from school, and no one ever made fun of him for it. To put it simply, he grew up in a very tolerant and progressive environment, with his school shutting down plays that contained Latin American stereotypes, but having no issue with another play being put on at the school called The Vagina Monologues. Because of this, Max felt that he could, and should, express himself, and so he asked the editor-in-chief of the school's newspaper if he could write for it. The editor refused outright, but told him that he should start his own paper, which he eventually did. In 2001, Max began a newsletter titled The Crux, but he wasn't allowed to distribute it the regular way by simply placing it next to the rest of the newsletters and school papers. You see, the school staff didn't really like what he had to say, so they threw stacks of it into the trash whenever they caught it lying around, prompting Max to begin handing it out during lunch. And even then, they continued trying to stem its distribution by whatever means they had. But this might lead you to wonder, what was so bad about his newsletter?
Can we get a reading of his Asians paper? Well, we'll see what Tom goes over here. Maybe we'll pull up some of his articles and shit as we go through this. We'll see what Tom gets into, how much of it Tom shows.
That the entire school was adamantly trying to stop other students from even reading it. Well,
because some of the newsletters and stuff he wrote were amazing.
In the first 3 issues, the topics he covered were more mundane, with topics like fluorescent lights making him hate himself and everyone else, and his support of the normalization of adult films, which was par for the course for the school. But he also covered more inflammatory things, like his review of a Cambodian New Year celebration, where an Asian woman gave a speech denouncing the objectification of Asian women. In his newsletter, he wrote, "When I got to listen to the Asian woman's speech, I wished I were on a different planet. People seem to have this crazy idea that if you tell someone not to be racist, sexist, or whateverist, they'll see the light you've directed them to, and you'll have cleansed their souls. Secondly, was it necessary to wear such a short skirt? I don't want to listen to a speech about objectifying Asian women who don't want to be objectified by someone who has just objectified herself. Also, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't..."
So based. God, Mr. Girl was so real. Thank you for the €2. Thank you.
One of the stereotypes that was listed in the speech that Asian women like to have intercourse. Perhaps I misunderstood this my whole life, but don't most people like it? And if Asian women to have intercourse. Perhaps I misunderstood this my whole life, but don't most people like it? And if Asian women really don't like it, then how come there are so many Asians? However,
dude, so real. God, his newspaper is actually so fucking... I don't know how Orange Newsletter, rather. So fucking good. I don't... Shall we go back through some of them? We'll see. We'll see. I want to see how many he goes through. Maybe we'll go look at the fat shaming one and see when he read it to Rhizome and shit.
However innocuous this ultimately is for a teenage guy to write, you can see how a school teacher could take issue with it. But this little blurb pales in comparison to the future issues. In the 4th installment, Max writes about how people who talk too much about how important it is to fight against prejudice and other issues are simply interested in themselves, saying, usually, these people will change the topic to something upsetting, and then they'll overflow with empathy for whomever you're talking about. You'll see that they're so sophisticated that the very mention of racism makes them want to cry for all the lynch victims they used to know. It's at times like this I wish that empathy were a liquid so that these people could choke on it. He closed this issue off with one question. If you could eliminate any race, what race would you eliminate? While this was enough to get him in hot water, it was issue 5 that earned him a week-long suspension due to sexual harassment and racism, according to the school. Now, as much as Max became a condemned person later on, he was actually kind of right in this instance, since what he actually wrote was a satire about his principal, Mr. Myers, an admitted child molester who was accused by 28 different people over the course of 50 years. According to
I will say, me personally, I think the documentary Mr. Girl Keeps Teasing is about this guy. From everything I've heard him say about it, I think it's about this guy.
Since what he actually wrote was a satire about his principal, Mr. Myers, an admitted child molester who was accused by 28 different people over the course of 50 years. According to Max, there was an outpouring of support from students and school staff to let Mr. Myers keep his job. For context, he hadn't suffered any legal repercussions for his crimes due to the statute of limitations. He did eventually get arrested and convicted in 2023, not for molesting kids, but instead for insurance fraud and theft.
Apparently, he's had, like, issues with it as well. I was watching, like, some clip. I don't know if I showed it on stream, like, a few weeks ago. He was talking about, like, he fell out with some of the victims, I think. Like, he's been interviewing all, like, the victims. He fell out with some of them. And then he's been, like, they didn't like the direction the documentary was going. But I feel like it's going to be really good. I feel like it's going to be pretty funny. Not funny, but, you know, like, morbid.
Although he was sentenced to 2 years of probation and is currently free. In his newsletter, Max wrote, "My response to Mr. Myers' controversial hobby of children, I'm going to break up with him. And had I known he was a child molester, I never would have gone out with him in the first place." He then went on to attack the people who supported Myers' controversial hobby of children. I'm going to break up with him. And had I known he was a child molester, I never would have gone out with him in the first place. He then went on to attack the people who supported him and those who were unwilling to press charges or contact social services over.
I used to be interested in Tom's opinion. Shane now he's just a voice reading a script. Someone else wrote pretends his opinion. Shameless. Does he even pretend? I feel like everyone kind of gets the deal with Tom's channel that it's like, or has been for a bit, essentially a content farm. Like it is just trying to make money, right?
For the allegations they'd received. For reasons beyond my understanding, he immediately segues into race relations, saying, "Black people have an unfair advantage over the other non-white races. They have a well-respected representative. The closest thing that Latin American people have to Martin Luther King Jr. is the Taco Bell Chihuahua." However funny that is as a statement, it was actually just a setup for him to go on another.
I mean, the reality is that it's much more difficult to make money with opinions than it is just, you know, riding the line and signaling to what's popular, right? Trying to mostly stay out of it and then just signal to the sort of safer option.
Rant about the Cambodian New Year celebration, which he punctuated by saying that Cambodian elementary schools sell hand grenades for $1.50, and by complaining that his school's attempts to teach about diversity were useless. Max said the superintendent told him that his paper was an act of sexual harassment against the principal, again, the confessed predator, and then referred him to the dean of students, a very light-skinned black woman who proceeded to tell Max he couldn't know anything about racism because he was white. Additionally, Max's father was informed by the guidance counselor that some Puerto Rican students students were planning to kill him when he was going home. And even after the issue was clarified and Max was exonerated of being racist, he became so scared and paranoid that he refused to use public urinals for fear of an attack. This was permanent, by the way. He claims he's still unable to use urinals to this day. The ACLU was then contacted, and once they claimed that the school was suppressing Max's freedom of speech, his suspension was lifted, and his newsletter was allowed to be properly distributed, at least for a while. A few issues later, it got him in trouble once again, this time for obscenity. And this one is more understandable since he gave a detailed description of an adult video and wrote half a page about how he was gay for his friend and suggested he wanted his friend to treat him like Mr. Myers treated underage boys. Not exactly in great taste, but still, it did fall under the umbrella of freedom of speech, and Max's suspension was once again lifted. But not before they contacted his dad and brought him into the school. The school expected he would be pretty mad at Max, but instead his father staged a protest, called the teacher a Nazi, and refused to leave the school until the police arrived. Despite how little they had in the way of success when trying to shut Max up, they continued trying, as he was suspended 2 more times in the same year, once for writing about how he whacked it, which included a tutorial for girls, by the way, and another time for writing "F you, Mom" at the end of the issue. Like the other ones, these suspensions were also lifted, and he continued to write new issues of The Crux until he graduated, now more invested than ever in his writings. With high school done, it was time for Max to go to big boy school, and he would start off at Colorado State, during which he was able to get a position as a columnist on one of the school's papers. However, his second article there got him in a little bit of trouble because he suggested that the school have a female football team that wore bikinis while they played so that he could ogle at them, which got him fired. A couple of years later, long after he'd left the CSU, he enrolled in the University of Colorado at Boulder, where, after he was rejected by every school paper, he decided to once again start publishing his own newsletter, The Yeti, the very first issue of which began with the following passage. "I have a new theory about why girls don't like me. It's a bit more sophisticated than my previous attempts at explaining this phenomenon, which ran along the lines of, girls don't like me because they're stupid, or girls don't like me because they can't understand that leg humping is just my way of saying hi. While these remain valid points to consider, I think my new theory really hits the nail on the head. Girls don't like me because I make them think." This is immediately followed by Max recounting an experience he had where 2 girls he was friends with became entranced with a guy who didn't engage with them intellectually and instead talked about himself. He explained this phenomenon, saying, "In a world where women are powerless objects, it's hard to tell."
It's so based having the social network clips here as well.
Intellectually and instead talked about himself. He explained this phenomenon, saying, "In a world where women are powerless objects, it's hard to talk to me, a smart, attractive, funny, sensitive, attentive, honest guy who pushes girls to think and asks them questions that are hard to answer." The second issue was mostly about how he was scared of black people because he instinctively imagined they'd all be constantly angry over racism, and he also stated he couldn't talk to them because he couldn't understand ebonics. He juxtaposed this to make a larger point about how indoctrinating kids into identifying themselves with either slaves or the slave masters due to their race was bad. But still, this was very much the same format and concept as The Crux, which is to say that it got under people's skin a lot. And the third issue was also pretty interesting. It's written as a satire about women being unable to orgasm, which got him called into
yes. Oh my god, we're doing the female orgasm newsletter. Oh my god.
It's written as a satire about women being unable to orgasm, which got him called into the vice chancellor's office, and also earned him a piece in the Colorado Daily covering his supposed sexism. Once again, the ACLU intervened, and nothing happened to Max. However, from that point forward, the college staff hated him and were just waiting for an opportunity to exact revenge. For a while, he continued.
He's not showing. Wait, where is it? Where is it? Is there a clip of him reading it? I feel like there is. No? Let me see if I can find the original. So it's not 6. It's okay. Wait, what? Oh my god. Here it is. I've got him. Okay, let's read the female orgasm newsletter that Mr. Girl wrote. Okay? Why would I pay him when he's got it available for free? Okay? Also, that wasn't even paid, I don't think. You shouldn't account. Okay. Let's read. Okay, so this is the Yeti issue 3. Good afternoon, boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about sex. More specifically, we'll be discussing the myth of the female orgasm. It has recently come to my attention that many young people believe that women can have orgasms. This is simply not true. I know that probably comes as a shock to you liberals with your MTV and your masturbation and your free speech, but I have proof that women are physically incapable of having orgasms. What proof, you may wonder? Scientific experiments, anonymous surveys? No, personal experience. I was 16 years old the first time I had sex. I've been watching hours upon hours of pornography ever since I was 8, so I pretty much know what I'm doing. Nevertheless, once I started pounding away, my girlfriend winced and complained that it didn't feel good. I didn't take this obvious attack on my manhood very lightly. It made me feel unappreciated and even insecure. I couldn't figure it out. I'd done exactly what the guys in pornos do. Why didn't it blow her mind? I thought it was all my fault. Then I did a little research. I found out that a lot of porn actresses actually fake their orgasms. So then I thought to myself, if a trained professional with a 9-inch penis can't make a woman have a real orgasm, who can? The answer is no one. If porn actresses have to fake, all women must fake. Therefore, women can't have orgasms. I patiently explained to her that the romantic images of sex as portrayed in the movies and books, with all the women moaning their heads off, is completely inaccurate. Women aren't supposed to like sex. Once she understood this, we got along much better. She learned to be quiet and lie still while I made love to her. Eventually, I began to feel a little guilty that I was having all the fun. I told her to perform oral sex on me every day instead of us having intercourse, because it was a lot easier for me to enjoy myself while I didn't have to see her face. Our relationship continued happily for a few months, but then something weird happened. One night, I was awakened by what seemed to be an earthquake. I was terrified at first, but after a few seconds, I saw that my girlfriend was doing the shaking. Not Earth. Then I noticed that she had her hand planted firmly in her thingy. There we go. Jesus Christ, I can't read. What the hell are you doing? I shouted. She froze, wide-eyed, meekly responded that she was trying to have an orgasm. My anger quickly softened to pity. My initial fear that she was trying to have sex without me, or maybe that she was a witch, disappeared. I suddenly realized she'd probably seen a woman touching herself in a porn movie and thought that this perverted, godless behavior would turn me on. But I wasn't turned on. I was disgusted. I told her that I appreciated the gesture, but I didn't want to see her ever lowering herself to acting out the sick male fantasy again. She agreed to stop, but there were several repeat offences, and in order to preserve her dignity and self-respect, I ultimately had to resort to physical restraints that would limit her hand movements. This, too, proved ineffective, as I later awoke to find her contorted and upside down, feverishly struggling to reach her vagina, so I bought ankle cuffs, too. We've been happy ever since. Now I realise that I'm not Superman. I wear glasses, I blink a lot, and I generally have a dorky, hairy, awkward appearance. But these things do not matter in bed. It's all about technique. So in the following paragraphs, I present to you my official men's guide to sex. First of all, do not compliment your partner about her body. This will make her think you're a sissy. Okay. And then she won't want you anymore. If you want to keep her interested, try to look at her breasts like you're evaluating them. Pretend you're a doctor. Also, during the sex act, you should avoid communicating with your partner. Don't ask her any questions about how she's feeling or what she would like you to do. You should try to keep her mind off sensations and emotions, because thinking about them will only upset her more than is necessary. Now, onto the physiology of sex. There are several different areas of the female body that you can just disregard right off the bat, as they are basically useless to men. These include the earlobes, the neck, the inner thighs, and the clitoris. The clitoris especially can be ignored because it has no function at all, like an appendix. As far as I can tell, it just sits there. Lips are a mixed blessing. They can bring you great pleasure, but they can also allow a woman to express her thoughts and feelings, and this can be unpleasant to hear. If you like being a sucker, you can play out her stupid romantic fantasies by kissing her on the lips. You might as well try to time it with the spaghetti kiss in Lady and the Tramp. And then you can go try out for the buffs. Breasts can be cool to look at and grab. They don't really have any nerves in them, so you can squeeze them as hard as you want as long as you don't pop them. They're basically just milk balloons. Unless you're a baby, there is no reason to kiss or suck on them other than to reminisce. This brings us to the final and most important part of the female body, the vagina, or alternatively, the receptacle. Women generally prefer that you jam your penis in their vaginas as quickly as possible during sex, ideally before it's wet at all, so they can really feel it. They would express their appreciation for this by saying, ow. Once you wriggle your way in, you just pound away as fast and as hard as you can. You can tell women really like this because they get distant, pained expressions on their faces, as if they're trying to escape from a dream world that they constructed when they were 11 years old and their breasts started to grow, and they realize they're going to be treated like blow-up dolls for the rest of their lives. That's when you're really hitting the spot. If you do exactly as I've told you, every girl that see you, excepting the occasional dork or lesbian, will sleep with you. If they complain of discomfort or boredom, just remind them that sex is designed for men, not women. I mean, think about it scientifically. If men don't orgasm during sex, it's the end of the human race. If women don't orgasm, who really cares? Saying sex should feel good to women is like saying it should feel good to a trash can when you throw garbage into it. 3 important things to think about. Remember, you are the jackhammer and she is the sidewalk. You are the asteroid and she is the dinosaurs. You are the oil troll and she is Iraq. Do not read the 3 important things to think about before you read the actual body of the newsletter. They are dessert. You must eat your vegetables so you can before you can have your dessert. 3. I'm going to stop writing these as soon as I get laid. Oh my god. It's so fucking good, dude.
To publish his newsletters unbothered, which gave way to multiple bangers, like a tutorial on how to be a good white ally, which included the phrase, "Every time a white person laughs, a black person cries." Another highlight is his diatribe against fat girls, pushing it to the extreme and actively promoting anorexia to make a point about appearance standards. However offensive on the surface level, the actual beliefs that Max expressed through his writing were very much in line with feminism, racial equality, and other beliefs that permeate college campuses. The only difference is that Max did his best to espouse these beliefs in the most sarcastic, insane way possible to get people mad at him. In an interview conducted with him at the time, he made this perfectly clear.
I think there's a lot of social issues out there, important things that people aren't talking about, like racism and sexism and homophobia and things like that, that I feel like would be better addressed in a humorous manner than by preachy, finger shakers.
Well, don't you feel sometimes that people will take that satirical manner in a negative light instead of doing something positive for the cause?
Yeah, I mean, it's a concern of mine. I don't know. I don't think that reading my newsletter is going to convert someone who wasn't a racist to being a racist, or is going to make someone who has no prejudice whatsoever to suddenly being like, wow, I do hate women.
He made it clear time and time again that he was quite left-leaning politically, but just loved being provocative, which deeply irritated the college staff. But it all came to a head in April of 2007, when the Virginia Tech shooting happened.
It is an incredibly busy time here in this newsroom as we are all pulling together to cover what is turning out to be the deadliest campus shooting in U.S. history. At this afternoon...
On the 16th of April, undergraduate Sung Hui Cho went on a shooting rampage, killing 32 people.
Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go.
Injuring 17 others. The very next day, Max attended a women's studies class that focused on the issues of black women, during which, while everyone else lamented what happened in Virginia, someone said, "I can't imagine shooting 32 people," which prompted Max to respond, "Anyone who says they've never thought about shooting 32 people is lying." He then went on to explain his statement.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie? Excuse me?
Supposedly specifying that given how generally obsessed people are with violence, especially when they're kids and teenagers, and given how terrible the conditions are in public schools, it made sense for that to come up as a thought. But he clarified he did not intend it as a threat. Despite the clarification, he was summoned to the chancellor's office and had to rehash his explanation once again. But as soon as he was about to walk out, he was met by 2 police officers. Max claims that at that moment, he realized that the administration was exacting its revenge, and they reported him to the police as if he'd made a genuine threat. He was then questioned by the cops, excerpts of which he eventually uploaded to YouTube.
So just to start off with, why do you think you're here?
I think I'm here because some of my classmates and my professor became uncomfortable during a conversation we had in class today.
In his recounting of this whole process, he says he spent a night in jail, during which they had the TV on, which allowed him to watch CNN report on his arrest live on TV as if he were a Virginia Tech copycat shooter who was caught early. It's pretty easy to find news reports about Max from this time, some of them focusing exclusively on his unfortunate...
The mugshot goes so hard, dude. This is it's such a hard mugshot.
Quote, and painting him as a potential shooter, others including information about his newsletter and the crazy things he wrote in his issues. Later on, he found that, unlike what the news report said, it wasn't his teachers or students who felt threatened by him that called the cops. It was the head of the women's studies department, who, upon hearing of his arrest, cheered, saying, "We got his ass." As soon as his case hit the news, 4 ACLU-affiliated lawyers jumped on the opportunity to represent him for free due to how much attention the situation got from national news, which is not surprising considering how soon it was after Virginia Tech. His dad bailed him out, Max refused to plead guilty, and ultimately, he was offered deferred prosecution, meaning the charges against him would get dropped if he simply committed no other crimes for a year, which he gladly agreed to. While Max claims that all of this was done with the intent of permanently stifling his ambitions with expressing his unorthodox unorthodox perspective, it did quite the opposite. Now, the faculty advisor for another school paper became a fan of his work and offered him the position of opinion editor, which he happily accepted, partly because he genuinely wanted the job, and partly because he wanted to do a little trolling. The first instance of his shenanigans was to, as he put it, publish a moderately racist essay about how Latin Americans should speak better English. Surprisingly, he got away with this, so he proceeded to up the ante. He submitted one of his own articles.
Thank you for £2. That's actually a great time, guys. Let's do a quick chill. Guys, we've got 517 people watching right now, 90 likes on the stream. If some of those 425 or so people who haven't liked the stream wouldn't mind moving their cursor, thumbs up, and clicking it, or pressing the thumbs up on the mobile device, that'd be hugely appreciated. Now, if you want to take your support one step further, you can donate directly through a Stream Elements link in the pinned chat message. You can also buy a membership to the channel, gift a membership to the channel, gift a whole bunch of memberships randomly throughout the chat. Buy a super chat, which will highlight a message and read out on TTS, or buy a super sticker, which is a YouTube image or GIF that'll be highlighted in chat, and they'll describe to you. You can go to discord.gg/Kuihman, twitter.com/Kuihman, or reddit.com/r/Kuihman. Thank you.
titled, "If it's war the Asians want, it's war they'll get." I don't know why he has so much smoke with the Asians, honestly. I don't get it. His article was actually covered by the local news.
The article, written by student Max Carson, details his hate for Asians.
The Asians just bother you sometimes, Tom.
News.
The article, written by student Max Carson, details his hate for Asians and poses that they be subjected to phases of absurd tasks. For example, Phase 1 suggested catching Asians with large butterfly nets and dragging them into apartments for further phases, which include forced binge drinking, useless games, and house redecorating.
This article essentially parodied the concept of immigrants integrating into another culture, but regardless, it instantly became the most read article in the paper of all time, and all of his social media platforms and email accounts were flooded with death threats from people who thought he was serious about wanting war with Asian people. The paper was shut down, and the Asian students held a protest against anti-Asian prejudice, which Max actually attended, and he took a picture with them.
Dude, how could you not like this guy? How could you not like this guy? He's so fucking cool. Like, there's just so many crazy things he's done, and just like hard as fuck photos and hard as fuck like essays and shit.
Them, much to their surprise. Another writing project from this period is a blog titled Shame Lane, which is no longer accessible. However, we know from articles written about it that it mostly focused on topics around intercourse, as well as more candid diary entry-like windows into Max's personal life at the time. He recounts temporarily working as a barista, but having to quit because he stared at women too much. Then, he got a job at a YMCA in San Francisco and found himself a girlfriend, although they broke up shortly after they moved in together. And the breakup was so bad that the police were called on them by the neighbors, although he doesn't specify here what exactly he meant by so bad. However, he has made a video talking about an instance where the police came during one of his breakups, which I assume is this one, unless it's happened multiple times, which is even worse.
I grabbed her wrist. She screamed for me to stop. And then, after that first time, a few weeks later, I grabbed her arms because she wasn't listening to me or something. And
is this not the how I learned to stop hitting women video? Is this video not literally about him saying, yeah, I was abusive, it was bad, here's how I stopped being abusive? Is this not from the how I stopped hitting women video? Is that not this video?
After that first time, a few weeks later, I grabbed her arms because she wasn't listening to me or something. And I grabbed them really hard.
Alright guys, all you have to do to get away with beating women online is be like Destiny and just say that you choked her out in self-defense, okay?
And afterwards, she showed me bruises on her arms. A little bit after that, I just said, okay. That was so loud that the
just never take real accountability. Always frame yourself as the good guy. Never admit you did anything wrong, and never talk about how you became a better person.
Neighbors are gonna call the cops, and before they get here, I need you to put on a long sleeve shirt so they don't see the bruises on your arms, because if they do, I'm gonna spend the night in jail, 100%.
At one point, Max wrote a blog entry celebrating the number of teenage girls who friended him on Facebook, saying, "The fact that teenage girls read this doesn't turn me on. However, it does make me feel happy. I like the idea that after a long, boring day of teachers narrowing their eyes at the slightest hint of your sexuality, of teenage boys not caring, thinking about how you turn on, and of your fathers cringing at the idea of you ever having intercourse, you can come to Shame Lane and be in the company of people who accept and even encourage your sickest thoughts." That preface where he says it doesn't turn him on is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Up until this point, Max was troubled and controversial for sure, but not to the point where he became genuinely evil. Every potentially despicable
what has he actually done? What has he actually done?
Thing he wrote in his papers always had a twist to it so that it redeemed his true intentions. And Max always managed to find an audience, and based on the things he said in his newsletter, he seemingly always had friends and even girlfriends. However, during the time between his college years and the creation of his YouTube channel, something changed, and he really jumped the shark from writing things that could be misconstrued as inappropriate to actually engaging in things that don't
He's become evil because he wrote the Destiny Report.
really bode well to the average person, to say the least. For example, in 2014, he posed nude at actress Olivia Wilde's baby shower. This, in and of itself, is just weird, but he clarified in a Reddit post from a few years later that the purpose of him being
he got hired to do that. He was hired to do that. How was that? He was a nude model. Olivia Wilde wanted a nude model at her baby shower.
being naked was for the people attending the baby shower to do an
anatomical... What are we gonna say? He's evil for doing cock porn too?
Drawing of him. However, in other posts in the same...
Wait, he doesn't even explain that this guy was that he was a nude model? Oh my god.
Thread, he admits to being
it's hit. I've been modeling for art classes for 10 years. It's there.
Baby shower to do an anatomical drawing of him. However, in other posts in the same thread, he admits to being an exhibitionist and pervert who was, at least at the time, doing this kind of gig as a job. Worse yet is the fact that
let's explain there. Let's explain there.
The story about doing it in a classroom where the female teacher started flirting with him to the point that he got an erection. He specified that this happened in front of high school kids and that he regularly posed naked for teenagers between 15 and 18 years old. In 2016, court records showed that a woman named Hannah was married to Max and filed for divorce. Though she seems to have made an effort to stay out of the spotlight insofar as Max's story, and given she's not that pivotal as a part of it, I won't go in depth here. In 2017, he started a gaming channel called mrgirl Gaming, which, as far as I know, is the first instance of that alias being used. However, that only lasted for a while, as he eventually returned to his true path.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not his, he's not walking into schools and being like, I wanna be naked in front of your kids. He's a nude model who's getting hired. I just don't understand. People actually act so fucking weird about this when it's like, who do you think is taking nude model jobs? Do you think it's people who don't like getting looked at or they're naked?
And filed for divorce. Though she seems to have made an effort to stay out of the spotlight insofar as Max's story, and given she's not that pivotal as a part of it, I won't go in depth here. In 2017, he started a gaming channel called mrgirl Gaming, which, as far as I know, is the first instance of that alias being used. However, that only lasted for a while, as he eventually returned to his true passion: controversial political commentary. As the anti-SJW community and breadtube content started peaking in popularity, Max saw it as an opportunity to once again resurge as a cultural analyst. But this time around, he was less interested in being provocative in an intellectual sense, and more so in hamming it up for shock value. One of his supposedly brilliant think pieces was a half-hour-long video of him naked and cranking it, which is still up on the hub to this day. Another low light of this period was a Reddit post he made.
Wait, how is that a low light? What's based? Yeah, he posted videos of himself jerking off online. Okay, problem. Problem. I was gonna read something from chat. Oh yeah, this is just making me sad. mrgirl got banned. This guy is awesome. It's not about how hard you get hit. It's about getting up, okay? Whatever the quote is, okay? Get up and keep moving forward. mrgirl's still making content.
The brilliant think pieces was a half-hour-long video of
documentary
him
soon
cranking it, which is still up on the hub to this day. Another low light of this period was a Reddit post he made to the
I'm not remembering gay Rocky quotes, okay? I'm never remembering that quote. In fact, I may deliberately butcher that quote every time I say it from now on.
And cranking it, which is still up on the hub to this day. Another low light of this period was a Reddit post he made to the unpopular opinion subreddit with the title, "PDF Philia is a spectrum, and we are all on it." With a title like that, it leaves very little little to the imagination regarding what kind of things he'll be saying. Just a few lines in, he drops this gem. Everyone is from time to time attracted to minors. Bad Baby, Britney Spears, etc. Their popularity is a testament to that. I guess the glaring missing piece in his rationale here is that those people were primarily popular amongst other teenagers, but regardless, I don't think he cared too much about the details. Another thing he failed to account for here is the fact that he spent over a decade of his life knowing his mother was attracted to him, going as far as to say he felt violated by her even if she didn't act on it. Additionally, he attended a school where the principal was a certified molester. With these things in mind, it's not surprising that he thought about this stuff more than the average person, but going from that to confidently claiming every person is on the spectrum seems like he's attempting to make himself feel more normal by accusing everyone else of being like him. At one
Okay, except if you like listen to David Lay or James Cantor or like any like top sexologist talk about this stuff, they will all say that yeah, everyone is technically on a spectrum, because the way that mental disorders work is that they are like statistical clusters of behaviors or like symptomology, where if you are a certain point past a certain point on this spectrum of behaviors, you are classified as this thing. So this is just, I mean, you can say that he's trying to make it seem like everyone's like him. I mean, that's what psychologists and sexologists say. That is what, that just seems to be true. But sure, whatever. I understand it's a commentary video, so we have to be completely dishonest to make it sound like, oh, there's no way I could ever be a pedophile. There's no way I could ever be anything like a pedophile. Then there's no way.
At one point, he said, "I also think everyone is attracted to prepubescent children from time to time." Though he reinforced multiple times that he thought acting on those urges should always be illegal, he simultaneously reminded everyone that fantasizing about it was legal. The thing about this is fantasizing about these things contributes to eventually doing them, hence people's hang-ups about it. Instead of acknowledging people's objections to his thread, he simply focused on what was legal or not, ignoring anything that undercut his point. This was just one in the unfortunately extensive list of things that heavily suggested Max was a creep. Within a year of this thread, he went from a relatively obscure edgelord to essentially front-page news on YouTube when he released a...
It suggests that he's a creep. What's a creep? What's a creep, Tom? You think he's going to offend?
Review of the movie Cuties.
I'll say...
Kuihman, most people are too stupid to understand what you just said. That's why this is a Mensa chat, okay? This is the chat for people who actually want to, you know, think about things for 2 fucking seconds online, okay? We're a safe haven for taking 2 seconds to fucking think about it. Taking 2 seconds to fucking Google it, okay? Thank you for the $4.99, Smith. How many of Turkey... Okay, Smith. Okay. Thank you for the $4.99.
Hey, it's not bad at it.
For context, Cuties is a Netflix-produced movie that featured extremely inappropriate scenes of multiple 11-year-olds dancing in short shorts. Once it was released, it was instantly met with extreme disapproval from everyone since it essentially contained the exploitation of children. They tried to salvage the movie's PR in a dozen different ways, often by saying that the movie was mismarketed by Netflix and that it was actually against the exploitation. This point was also attached to the claim that the backlash came from Western audiences who were too dumb and chauvinistic to get it, since the movie was made by a Muslim woman. However, none of these copes remotely do justice to the fact that the movie explicitly depicts the exploitation of minors and frames it as something liberating by juxtaposing it against strict Islamic values. Regardless of how obviously terrible this was...
Wait, Tom hasn't seen the movie. Doesn't she go back? Does not... At the end of the movie, I haven't seen the movie either, to be clear, but at the end of the movie, I've always heard that the girl goes back to her conservative family. Yeah, dude... My understanding of the movie has always been that at the end, it's like she is torn. The main character, the main girl, is torn between the hypersexualized, mainstream, like not mainstream, like corporate, like profit incentive, dance world. I'm not the one making a video about it. Tom just made a statement about the meaning of the movie. Tom just made a statement about the meaning of the movie. My understanding of the movie has always been. And I did know the ending. I just said what the ending was. Swaggle. Did you not hear that? She goes back to her conservative family. I do know the ending. What do you mean? But the point is that she's always drawn between the super sexualized dance industry versus the Muslim conservative family that she comes from. And at the end of it, she's like torn between both throughout the movie. And at the end of it, she's sort of like back with her family, though with a new... sort of like, Oh, not everything was bad, but obviously that's a completely fucked situation. You said you haven't seen the movies. How do you know that that's the ending? Because I've looked it up before, Smaggle. Why? Should we do a fact check? And then my content is absolutely true, and Tom's video is categorically false. So you can stop the sweeping.
Mr. Girl is all right. I mean, I'd keep him to the floor of my broom closet at least. Remove the doorknob so I can ask psychology advice to him through the little hole. I'd keep him around.
Thank you for the $50. Thank you. Hugely appreciate it. That's incredibly generous to Manish Dognut. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amy, an 11-year-old girl from Senegal, lives with her mother, Miriam, and 2 younger brothers, one of them named Ishmael, in an apartment in one of Paris's poorest neighborhoods. She's angered by her polygamous father, who is preparing to return with a second wife. Is that polygamous? Polygamy? Polygamy? I thought it was polygamy. Polygamy is multiple spouses. Polygamy is specifically a guy married to multiple women. Got you. I'm with you. She's also bored with Islamic culture that her aunt seeks to impose on her. Amy is fascinated by her disobedient neighbor Angelica's preteen twerking clique. The cuties, which is in stark contrast to Mariam's Muslim customs, they do not hesitate to adopt revealing outfits against their older rivals, the sweetie swags. So even here, it's about trying to be older than they are in the quest for online recognition. Amy decides to incorporate suggestive dance moves into the choreography. After getting pantsed for fighting with sweetie swags, she steals her cousin's phone and sends a photo of her vulva online to a social network, attempt to look mature, backfiring heavily with her being ostracized and causing a rift between her and the cuties who kick her out. Replaced with former member Yasmin. Her mother also confronts her on committing such indecency. She and her aunt try performing an exorcism on Amy, but it fails. While her father's wedding day corresponds to the finale at Parc de la Villette, she's determined to dance with them and sneaks out of the house. She pushes Yasmin into a canal, so the cuties have no choice but to allow her to dance with them. The highly suggestive dance routine polarizes audience. Suddenly think about her mother during the routine. Amy bursts into tears and leaves before the performance ends. Upon return, she runs into her aunt, who blames her outfit and her recent attitude. Amy's mother intervenes by telling her to leave her daughter alone, then hugs her to reassure her. Amy's aunt implores her mother to not allow her to attend the wedding in order to demonstrate her disapproval. Amy's mother permits her not to go, but states that she herself must go to fulfill her duty as a wife. In the end, Amy abandons both the traditional wedding dress and her provocative dancer's outfit, living a normal youth lifestyle. So yeah, it's about the hyper-objectification of women by conservative Muslim culture, where men are able to take women as essentially trophies, and women are expected to fulfill certain roles in a man's life, versus the hypersexualized mainstream TikTok dance shit that encourages young girls to become sexually mature before they're ready. And then in the end, the ultimate true answer that is shown by the director says, hey, the real way to end up here is to have a normal youth lifestyle. So I mean, it's not about to say it's cope, to say this is against the sexualization of children. No, it's not cope to say that at all. So let's run back what Tom said. Tom claimed that, but it makes the sexualization of children seem okay.
Girls looking more and more correct by the day. Can you release a reductive video to win over your @4lid fans?
Yeah, it's about rejecting the extremities of society that both perpetuate the objectification of women. That's what it's about. Tom claims it's about putting sexual promiscuity against Muslim traditionalism and saying sexual promiscuity is better.
Exploitation of children. They tried to salvage the movie's PR in a dozen different ways, often by saying that the movie was mismarketed by Netflix and that it was actually against the exploitation. This point was also attached to the claim that the backlash came from Western audiences who were too dumb and chauvinistic to get it, since the movie was made by a Muslim woman. However, none of these copes remotely do justice to the fact that the movie explicitly depicts the exploitation of minors and frames it as something liberating by juxtaposing it against strict Islamic values. Regardless of how obvious.
So that's just not the case. That's just not the case. That's not what the movie's about. So Mr. Girl's argument is actually way better against cuties. Because as much as Mr. Girl said the movie was good and all the other things he said about it, Mr. Girl said it was unethical to produce. It was wrong to use real children of that age to portray those characters in those situations. That is wrong, that is unethical, and shouldn't have happened. That's a much better argument than coming up with this retarded bullshit where you pretend that the movie is pro-pedophilia.
Obviously terrible this was, some YouTube pseudo-intellectuals decided to make it their hill to die on. One of them was Sneeko, who's someone I've covered in another video.
This is one of the movies that's gonna age well.
Oh, no. You see, the child, it was just a goof. It was just for laughs, you know? Just, why aren't you laughing?
And once he saw this commotion taking place, Max decided it was a prime opportunity for him to give his 2 cents. In his video about it, he made a series of statements that sounded seriously incriminating.
But, yeah, as far as like sex and music videos go...
Okay, that's true.
It's not bad. They're pretty hot. And, you know, you can say whatever you want about me. It's not my fault. I didn't make them do that. They did that. That's the point. That's the whole point of the movie. Is that you're supposed to be sitting there thinking, look at the blonde one. You're supposed to be sitting there holding these 2 thoughts in your head. And one, that these are kids. And the other, that they're hot.
In another video of his from the same time, he planned to record himself cranking it to the movie, but didn't because his editor wouldn't edit it. As you can probably imagine, this really did not go well whatsoever. In September 2020, Moist Critical covered the controversy surrounding the movie. After having thoroughly denounced it, he addressed Mr. Girl's video on it, highlighting how downright creepy his take on it was.
That's the message that
Moist Critical got him. Moist Critical got him. Smartest guy on the fucking platform, Moist Critical.
Movie with pedophiles with the biggest smile on their face, pumping their fists in the air. Thanks, Netflix. Just easily accessible and softcore child. It's unbelievable. You can't defend this movie, and if you're defending this movie, you haven't seen it.
That's what Mr. Girl said as well. Dude, it's just like so dumb. Mr. Girl's made this exact point, that it's wrong to use actual kids in those situations, even to make the point that it's bad to put kids in those situations. Like, so few people disagree with this. Only like Sneeko disagrees with that take.
And if you have seen it and they're defending it, you might be a pedophile. It's as simple as that.
Though Max's video was already getting some traction on its own, Critical's mention of him sent it into the stratosphere, turning him into the object of hundreds.
Yeah, you don't understand. This was everybody's chance to tell the world how great they are. Guys, I'm not a pedophile. Guys, as you know, I'm not a pedophile. Look, this movie's bad. Oh my god. Thank you for the 199 bisexual horror acts.
Just thousands of people's hatred overnight. And like any lol cow worth his salt, he instantly got an invitation from Ethan Ralph to the kill stream to reiterate and clarify his thoughts on the movie. Surprisingly, this actually got him to slightly walk back his stance, as it appears Andy Worski informed him that 5,000 girls auditioned for the kids' parts, meaning whoever did the movie's casting watched 5,000 kids dance in order to pick who would be in it. This was shocking enough that Max decided that Netflix should probably take down the movie. However,
commentary guys are terrified of pedos because they're all fighting over the same girls.
Dozens of posts of his solidify that he still thought it was a good movie, and there was nothing wrong with him having enjoyed watching it or even feeling arousal from it. Soon after, he got his own thread on Kiwi Farms, prompting him to state that neo-Nazis were doxing him, which eventually progressed to him saying that the 5,000 people who negatively commented on his video were also all Nazis. Ultimately, he never fully retracted his statements about the movie on arousal from it. Soon after, he got his own thread on Kiwi Farms, prompting him to state that neo-Nazis were doxing him, which eventually progressed to him saying that the 5,000 people who negatively commented on his video were also all Nazis. Ultimately, he never fully retracted his statements about the movie or changed his mind about its content.
You're kind of throwing Sneeko on the bus to take his statements as girls. I don't think it is. I don't think Sneeko thinks it was unethical to produce, does he? I've never heard Sneeko say that. I could be wrong. I could be incorrect. My understanding is I never heard Sneeko say it was unethical to produce.
Instead, he capitalized on his infamy as much as he could by trying his best to get the attention of pundits like Steven Crowder.
And after seeing what's happening with Vox getting Steven Crowder's channel demonetized, I decided to repost this video with a new introduction to stand in solidarity with Steven. Censorship is an increasingly huge problem, and huge corporations like YouTube or...
You said that in the first Moist debate, no? The first Moist debate? Or you mean the recent one? I don't know if I saw the first one, if there was one other than the one where Sneeko's saying 12-year-olds should have to get married. Oh, wait, but okay. Sneeko called it... Okay, but did he call it unethical? But he wouldn't have thought it was unethical if they were, like, married. He thinks the sexual promiscuity is unethical, doesn't he? It's nothing about the kids being wrong for kids to be in sexual situations like that.
Or the government or whoever should not be reaching into my channel's pants without my consent and pulling videos out You can call me anything you want if it makes you feel better. You can spit on me. You can spit in my mouth. You can pull my hair. You know, whatever you need to do.
I'll have to cover a lot of this up with editing, but if you didn't realize what he did there, he took all of his clothes off between the shots. I guess to make fun of Steven Crowder for being homophobic or something. 1 month later, Max came back with a video covering all the controversies he'd been in since high school, claiming that he'd simply been misunderstood in every single case. While this video is pretty superficial in the point that it makes, it's quite telling that he sees the cutie situation as just another instance of people unfairly targeting him. And it's even more telling that, to this day, he couldn't move past the issues he had with the authorities a decade prior. Like an edgy Peter Pan, developmentally stunted and frozen in his edgelord phase. In December of 2020, Max got banned from YouTube.
Okay, dude, it's just so lame kind of hearing that from Tom. It's like, do I even like crazy disagree? Obviously, Mr. got a lot of hang-ups, yeah. But dude, an edgelord Peter Pan. So I guarantee Tom has criticized iDubbbz for turning on this fucking fanbase, switching everything up. This is just like sellout rationalization. This is like sellout rationalization. Oh, you're just stuck in your edgelord phase. You haven't matured and realized that you can't say anything you actually think because you have to make money. Coming from the same guy who just drops N-words on stream sometimes. Drops N-words while playing Fortnite. Epically own the libs. No, but he's stuck in his edgelord phase. Okay, Tom. You haven't matured and become an empty vessel like me.
Which did very little to make him actually change his content. And so as a result, when his channel was eventually reinstated on YouTube, he went right back to usual. However out of touch he was with his own situation, it did give way to plenty of extremely entertaining moments, such as his Eminem parody song about his controversy. 'Cause I'm a pedophile! He was basking in the attention, negative or otherwise.
Dude, this music video went so hard.
Every other instance when he got into trouble. It was evident that Max was clinging to his 15 minutes of fame since he continued to make increasingly unhinged rehashes of it.
You're playing Minecraft in a cave looking for diamonds. That's funny. I'm in the same cave looking for miners.
Albeit, they did continue to be entertaining and successful, accruing millions of views and streams, and even attaining meme status when it got uploaded with this picture of Wapple. However, once you look beyond them, very little substance can be found in what Max is trying to push, leaving him permanently relegated to the outskirts of BreadTube. And make no mistake, they all hate him.
Can't even play hopscotch without popping a rager.
He was banned 2 more times, once for uploading a video that had Pornhub in the title, and another time for featuring a clip from a movie that depicted explicit violence, although his channel did come back in both cases. The last ban was a result of a mass flagging campaign from followers of Nick Fuentes after a series of debates between Max and Destiny about the latter's association with Nick, whom Max called a white supremacist. Throughout 2021 and 2022, Destiny and Max grew closer, which isn't surprising since in many ways they mirrored each other. Both were extremely invested in discussing controversial topics, even if it made them look bad to outsiders. Both found themselves in very left-leaning circles, despite retaining views that could be seen as offensive by that demographic. And lastly, both got into controversy over statements made on the topic of pedophilia.
Oh, so I don't think any sort of mental illness should be demonized. The demonization of pedophiles in society is an incredibly negative thing, I would think. Pedophilia is very much
back when Destiny content was good, back when Destiny had cool, funny debates with retarded people that couldn't understand what he was saying. To be back in 2016 to 2018 again. To be back in the IBS era. Oh, man.
The more you stigmatize it, the less people seek treatment for it. So yeah, I absolutely think that it shouldn't be demonized or stigmatized.
Sorry, Destiny's not on Adderall in these old clips. The reason his jaw swings like that is because he had speech therapy in his 20s and to try and account for his lisp. That's why his jaw swings like that in these old clips.
Negative thing, I would think. Pedophilia is very much a mental disorder. The more you stigmatize it, the less people seek treatment for it. So yeah, I absolutely think that it shouldn't be demonized or stigmatized.
Cool. Yeah. All in all, they were a match made in heaven, and to some extent, their audiences recognized it. Unlike most people Destiny debated, Mr. Girl was the one person who shared his commitment to entertaining whatever opinions for the sake of argument. Whether that was a good thing or not, his audience definitely enjoyed watching it to the point that whenever Mr. Girl got banned or suspended from a platform, many prominent figures in Destiny's fanbase ran to his rescue.
What about the part where she falsely accused him of sexual harassment? What about the bit where this nasty bitch falsely accused him of sexual harassment?
Defending him from ludicrous accusations and advocating for him to be reinstated. By all intents and purposes, Destiny was definitely responsible for giving Max a second wind to an online career that had been debilitated by suspension after suspension. For a brief period, this surge in popularity yielded a lot of golden moments.
Cherry did too, but Cherry immediately apologized. Cherry did too, but Cherry spoke to him and immediately apologized. Stardust doubled down. Repeatedly doubled down, took it back, went back on it, took it back again, went back on that.
I will slather diarrhea all over my face.
Children are slaves.
Don't you think the country would be a better place if we took every disabled person and just killed them all? No. I would hit my wife and then not apologize.
These weren't just of the funny variety either, as Max often succeeded in getting under people's skin and extracting unusual reactions from them, seemingly without even trying.
Left the door open and wide enough for you? You want to knock the whole wall down to make room for how mad you are?
But as it turned out, giving Max this second wind was a major mistake, as in late 2022, he turned against Destiny and his audience. As previously mentioned and reiterated by Destiny himself, the last ban Max suffered was on account of a mass flagging campaign coming from groypers. The thing is, these groypers only came into contact with Max because he started arguing with them over Destiny streams with Nick Fuentes. This, in turn, was recontextualized by Max as if his deplatforming was the fault of Destiny and his community. He proceeded to go to war with Destiny subreddit, to the point where he couldn't sleep for weeks.
A lot of that is because of your subreddit. You ban some criticism that you just don't like in your own subreddit because of how it makes you feel. Imagine how it would make you feel if you and anyone who had agreed with you was banned from responding, and for periods of time you are the main topic of the subreddit. It's a really terrible feeling watching this story be told about you.
Yeah, obviously I understand what this feels like, right? You certainly understand. I know what this feels like. I've had plenty of subreddits do this to me before. Yeah.
Okay.
The point Max is making here is that since they were friends, he was hurt that Destiny didn't orient his subreddit's moderation to be more favorable toward him so as not to impact his career negatively.
Well, okay. No, it wasn't just not orienting his subreddit to be more favorable. It was about not doing like a blanket ban of Mr. Girl supporters and him, right? They deliberately started trying to drive out that group of people so that that position was not represented there. It was not, hey, can you change your moderation to be more favorable? It was, hey, you want us can you just like not get rid of all of my guys? Because then there's no one fighting for me.
Meanwhile, Destiny argued that no one's well-being should depend on how other people's communities behave. For a guy who spent years upon years bragging about how easily he could push other people's buttons and how little he cared for the backlash, Max was weirdly sensitive to how other people talked about him. Once again, something was fundamentally shifting underneath Max's surface, as being online for too long had made him increasingly deranged. Soon after his declaration of war, he got into a Twitter squabble with a couple of other people in the Destiny-adjacent community. The reason why? They got mad at him for starting his stream with his pants hanging too low, which they said exposed his hair. Not the hair on his head. As much as it's a goofball move to get up in arms about this, there was—
oh, here we go. Oh.
A Twitter squabble with a couple of other people in the Destiny-adjacent community. The reason why? They got mad at him for starting his stream with his pants hanging too low, which they said exposed his hair. Not the hair on his head. As much as it's a goofball move to get up in arms about this, there was already momentum and friction between him and the rest of Destiny's orbiters, meaning this just fanned the flames of the bridge burning between Mr. Girl and the rest of the Destiny.
That's not even, I don't even think this is true. I don't even think what Tom's saying here is really true. I feel like everyone sort of, there was like a pretty, for the most part, fair response, I feel like. No? There might have been some people in Destiny's community that were like going, oh, Mr. Girl's an exhibitionist, so he was definitely doing this to try and fuck with them. There were a few people like that, but I think broadly people actually approached it pretty fairly. Said, yo, what the fuck? You can't just do this shit. You can't just accuse this guy of crazy shit. Yeah. Yeah, I don't even think that's true. I feel like Tom's even, that's even slightly unfair to DGG here. Unfair to DGG and Mr. Girl, because it makes it seem more legitimate than it was, and also makes it seem like no one was defending him on the, obviously bullshit allegations.
Extended universe. His next brilliant move was to do an hour-and-a-half-long stream on Twitter, where he aimed to expose Destiny for being exploitative and disrespectful to those who came on his stream. In actuality, all that Max had was a screenshot of Destiny exchanging lewd messages with Anna, a girl who is known to be a liar and generally unstable person. As if that was proof of, well, it's kind of hard to tell what this was.
Okay. You're missing, there's so much context missing here. Missing out the fact that this was happening while he was going back and forth with her, smearing her as a stalker in public, while continuing to have private sexual interactions with her. Literally saying, he literally claimed that he was going around saying she was like an abuser. He was locked in the basement of her mind and all this shit. This is like such a bad retelling of what happened here. This is like totally insane. He was behaving in such an insane way towards Anna. Dude, this is a shameful sweeping.
Of the bridge burning between Mr. Girl and the rest of the Destiny Extended Universe. His next brilliant move was to do an hour-and-a-half-long stream on Twitter, where he aimed to expose Destiny for being exploitative and disrespectful to those who came on his stream. In actuality, all that Max had was a screenshot of Destiny exchanging lewd messages with Anna, a girl who is known to be a liar and generally unstable person. As if that was proof of, well, it's kind of hard to tell what this was supposed to prove. Max was grasping at anything he could do to squeeze every last drop of attention out of his association with Destiny. A small commentary channel named Nicholas Diorio butted into the drama, sharing new screenshots of Anna and Destiny talking, wherein she could be seen clearly stating she did not think she was being manipulated in any way. As a matter of fact, she claimed the opposite, that Max was the one being extremely manipulative, pressuring her into taking part in his expose. When responding to Nick, Max claimed he only ever said that they were exchanging lewd messages and nothing more, right before he once again claimed that Destiny exploited.
So this is like, this shit is what totally sort of took the wind out of Mr. Girl's thing. But I feel like you kind of, if you're going to include bits like this, Brittany Simon has just come out and said that Destiny, well, claims, obviously we can't know that it's true, Brittany Simon could be lying, I don't have huge trust in Brittany Simon, but Brittany Simon now claims that around this time, Destiny was at dinner with them and said, I have to get Anna on my side, I have to get Anna on my side to win this against Mr. Girl and Lav. And my understanding, she did not, Mr. Girl did not just start pressuring Anna. Anna fuck. Anna told Lav about what was happening, and then Lav took it to Mr. Girl and got them in a call together.
Being manipulated in any way. As a matter of fact, she claimed the opposite, that Max was the one being extremely manipulative, pressuring her into taking part in his expose. When responding to Nick, Max claimed,
but you don't get it, Kui. That's an entirely different video that could make Tom more money. Okay, when Tom makes the Destiny report video that is a fair analysis of every single allegation against Destiny over the years, I'll believe you, Smaggle. I'll believe you. Until then, this is a sweep job, okay?
he only ever said that they were exchanging lewd messages and nothing more. Right before he once again...
I will say his documentary would be a great place to do that, but whatever.
...claimed that Destiny exploited her. This wasn't an expose as much as a straightforward smear attempt that failed to launch since Max didn't really have anything. Still, despite his one and only potential witness coming out and claiming the exact opposite of what he was alleging, Max didn't give up. If anything, this made him even more staunch in his battle. His usual apathetic affect gave way to a bitter and resentful tone, and he became unable to talk about anything besides this drama. And his tactics got increasingly shady, from blaming Destiny for his community's actions, to contacting past girlfriends of Destiny from over 7 years prior to see if they had anything scathing to say, only to come up with nothing. If anything, doing this called into question his own history.
It came up with nothing. He didn't come up with nothing, did he? He clearly showed that Destiny was fucking lying about the nature of his relationship with Anna. And I mean, Lav just keeps getting vindicated on, like, several things. Like, the Hassan thing. I'm pretty sure people are coming around on the Hassan Paris Jackson thing now. Which, like, I mean, I've always said, like, Hassan's ages that Hassan gave in that story don't add up. If the age Hassan gave for himself in that story about Paris is true, then she was 17.
Which is checkered, to say the least.
And Pixie.
In the middle of 2022, Mr. Girl released a video titled "You're My Real Doll," in which he talks to his girlfriend, Shaylin, about something he did that upset her.
Okay, so you've been pretty upset with me for the last few days because
Dude, this was okay, no, now this is awesome. Now this is awesome.
Shaylin, about something he did that upset her.
Okay, so you've been pretty upset with me for the last few days because
I did watch the full video. I watched the full uncensored video. I did.
I said that you were my sex doll.
In this extremely bizarre setting, Shaylin goes on to explain that he jumped into bed with her and said she was his doll, and when she objected to it, he insisted, which made her feel uncomfortable and like she couldn't have any boundaries. For context, this interview took place after Max bought a human-sized doll to experiment how that could potentially
Wait, did he buy it? I don't think he bought it. I believe he was sent it. I believe the company actually sent it to him to review. It was a review copy
of his relationship with Shaylin. Max is laughing as she goes over the situation, and though Shaylin does smile, it's very stilted and awkward. He then explains his perspective on it.
The implication is that I don't get to have any boundaries or set any limits.
It's not that you don't get to have any limits, it's that there's a limit to your limits.
Well, yeah. Come here, bud.
You have to have sex with me. So you can have boundaries to a point. You can say no a certain number of times.
From watching a lot of other Mr. Girl videos, it's possible to pick up that he's subtly framing the things he says as humorous by deliberately being over the top and creepy. However, as the video goes on, it becomes clear that he is completely serious.
You have to get me off.
Yeah, and that's fine, but...
No, you have to.
I know.
Okay.
But I just think that the implication
While he's eating the orange.
Well, sex dolls get... They don't have any choice. They have no autonomy.
That's what I'm
they
saying,
just lie
that,
there.
Okay. I prefer it when you just lie there. Since you get upset when I tell you to just lie there and not move, and a doll's gonna do that anyway, it would be interesting to see what it's like for me to just f the doll. Because the doll always does what I want it to do.
Whatever aspects of this discussion that initially seem playful, like him cursing at her or telling her to shut up.
No, it's not meant to be playful. The point is that they are having like an exceedingly tense argument where Mr. Girl is expressing some very you know, fucking deep dark emotions about sex and recording what happens. It's not meant to be playful. It's art, Tom. It's art, okay?
Begin showing themselves as not playful, but with intent. After minutes of Max repeatedly prodding her and insulting her, Shaylin begins reacting in the same measure.
You're gonna put this in the video, and I feel uncomfortable because I'm already...
This is a really weird conversation to be having. You shouldn't be making your girlfriend cry like this. I would never have a fractious interaction where I express some dark thoughts to a spouse that results in tears or strong emotions. I would never do that. I would never do that because I run a commentary channel. So all of my relationships are just like the movies, actually. We're the exact same age, and we meet at a coffee shop, and then we go on dates to the fair, the state fair, and we eat cotton candy, and then we never have sex ever. And if we do have sex, I write a written fucking letter asking her if it's okay for me to touch her. Because I'm a fucking commentary YouTuber, and my entire life is a sterile, sexless mess that's lived fully on camera.
In a very uncomfortable position of like not wanting people to their relationship is abusive, but you're like berating me about asking you a question about you asking me to agree to sex on a regular basis and be a sex doll. I don't want to do this. I am quitting the interview, and I do not want any of this to be in the video.
What do you mean by pushing your boundaries? It's not pushing your boundaries to ask you for something sexual. That's not pushing.
Asking me for something sexual on camera is pushing my boundaries. If I had known you were going to do that, I probably would have addressed that before we got on camera, but I didn't know you were gonna do that.
The video ends with her breaking down in tears and cutting the conversation short.
The way you make people...
Yeah, but that's the point. The whole point is that she can leave at any time. The whole point, this is how they do their things. They have a setup. They have a whole setup. They have agreements in there. He doesn't include any of this, but he literally talks about this. They have agreements in their relationship to be able to create videos like this. He says, we're recording. Whatever we record, I'm going to use. You can leave at any time, but you have to say, I'm leaving, I'm done with it. You have to assert your boundary there and say, I'm done with this, I can't be part of this, I don't want to be part of this, and then it ends. And the moment she's done, it ends.
You make people think I'm abusive without saying the word abusive or by doing anything explicit. It's a very subtle throwing under the bus, but it's happening, and I know it's happening.
I can't listen to you. I need to take a break.
Okay, do you want to play Smash?
No, I just want to be alone.
Okay.
This is possibly the most revealing thing that Max ever posted online. However much in his element he seems to be in his writing, videos, or music, it doesn't come close to painting as full a picture of who he actually is as when he's arguing with Shaylin. And that picture looks
Shaylin.
Interestingly enough, they both acknowledge that the way the conversation is going makes him look like an emotional manipulator. Coincidentally, in an article on his Little Shame Lane blog from 2011, which was also an adult's toy review, Max wrote this: Hannah's mom freaked out. After reading my entire blog, she brought it to a battered women's shelter, where the workers looked over it and told her I am textbook abusive. Then she called all of Hannah's friends and told them to help her make Hannah break up with me. But enough about Hannah's mom. Let's talk about the Monique Alexander realistic fleshlight. I have to say here that they did not break up, as she eventually went on to marry this guy for reasons I cannot comprehend. Regardless, it is noteworthy that Max has been under suspicion of mistreating his partners far.
Yeah. I can't comprehend why any woman would want to marry this interesting guy with varied experiences, a lot of controversial thoughts on different topics, who's not afraid to say what he thinks, engages in a very intense and emotional way with everyone he meets, is very open about who he is. I can't imagine why any woman would ever want to be with this guy. I thought all women wanted sterile commentary YouTubers who get on camera and pretend they never had sex.
Far before he ever got with Shaylin. However, I need to note here that these kinds of interactions between them were so common that people made entire compilations out of Mr. Girl's mistreatment of Shaylin.
That's a stupid question and should tell you that what you need to do is talk about your feelings, not ask more dumb.
I understand that you have some other retarded argument you want to make that has nothing to do with that. That's not why I'm screaming at you.
It's horrible for me because, like, I already feel bad about it. Like, why would you do that? I mean, I know why because you've explained it to me, but it's horrible.
I assume Shaylin eventually changed her mind about not wanting the interview to be part of this video, because if that's not the case, then he ultimately did violate her boundaries by posting it. Despite all of this, they're still together to this day, with Shaylin largely supporting his crusade against Destiny, which a lot of people chalk up to some form of Stockholm Syndrome.
Well, she seems more against Destiny than Mr. Girl is. I'm pretty sure he's even said that she was saying the shit he was saying before he was saying it. No? Am I making that up? I'm pretty sure she hates Destiny more than he does.
Max messaged every single girl Destiny followed on Instagram, and even resorted to reaching out to other orbiters he'd previously beefed with.
And she independently as well did that whole thing with Chud as well, where when they were about to have the interview, she tried to get him to change the thumbnails about Lav. She was absolutely, dude, it's just so insane, this narrative that Destiny just put out. Shaylin's just a mindless fucking zombie. Shaylin's a mindless fucking zombie. She's completely worthless. Nothing. You'd never said. Destiny has actually said that, and people just have bought it completely. She has her own fucking thoughts.
To try and scramble for any source of dirt he could get. In March of 2023, he released an article with over 100,000 words on Destiny. Unsurprisingly, it had no measurable effect, as it just rehashed things he'd previously said and were far from being secrets in the first place, or were simply gigantic stretches about how Destiny having people argue against each other on his stream was a kind of gladiatorial match.
What about all the DMs that have come out since then, where Destiny is encouraging women that he's sleeping with to fight with each other, even feeding them personal information about each other to try and attack each other with? Like the ones that came out in the Rose leaks just last week, where he was trying to encourage Rose to reply to one of Merrick DeVille's GoFundMe tweets after her suicide attempt by mocking her suicide, like that. Or the stuff with Zoe and Lav, where he's telling Zoe stuff about Lav to fight her with. What about that? Those don't count because they make Destiny look bad. So true. Dude, it's just like no engagement. Knowing how Tom works, speculating on my part, this could have been the works before the Destiny leaks happened. I get the sense that may be the case. That may be the case. But there were already examples of this out before then, like the Zoe and Anna thing. That came out, like, start of the year.
Previously said, and were far from being secrets in the first place, or were simply gigantic stretches about how Destiny having people argue against each other on his stream was a kind of gladiatorial match. Regardless of whether Destiny and his community are overall good or bad entities, it's clear that this was motivated by an obsessive vendetta over their personal issues with each other. Fortunately, this effectively closed the chapter on their public spat, and only after this came out did Max move on, but not to better things. In the same month as his article came out, Max was interviewed about his latest online activity, and the topic of his ex-wife was brought up. Specifically, he was asked about having posted nude images of his ex-wife, Hannah, online.
Thank you for the gifted.
Context of whether that constituted revenge or not, which he had a very tough time answering. Given that they're now divorced, I'm not so sure she's okay with it, but then again, not that much is known about their relationship. Now that his war effort against Destiny had reached its uneventful end, Max could go back to talking about what he really
I don't know, I don't even remember that Andrew Wilson debate, but if he didn't answer the question, it sounds like he doesn't want to talk about his ex-wife, and I don't feel like framing it as though it's probably revenge porn. You know who your guy was, right? Framing it as though it's probably revenge porn when you've got no idea about whether there was consent. It's just like, okay.
Revenge or not, which he had a very tough time answering. Given that they're now divorced, I'm not so sure she's okay with it, but then again, not that much is known about their relationship. Now that his war effort against Destiny had reached its uneventful end, Max could go back to talking about what he really finds interesting. In August of 2023, he posted an article titled, "People Shouldn't Go to Jail for Looking at CP." In it, he says, "I enjoy cranking it to Cardi B music videos, cartoons about and stories about men being violated by their mothers. I also used to watch real adult films, but 6 months ago, I stopped. I believe the financial incentives and pressures involved in it make it so the performers can't truly consent. I say this as someone who has been in front of the camera a few times myself. If we get universal basic income someday, and I know the performers are not choosing between homelessness or butt stuff, I'll start watching real stuff again. I do wonder though, if I were a PDF file, would I look at CP? Oh yeah. I wouldn't be able to stop myself, partly because I'd have no other outlet for my urges, but also because merely looking at CP is ultimately a victimless crime. This may seem like just another thought experiment, but to Max, this isn't a hypothetical whatsoever, as his participation in this stream heavily suggests.
Have you ever looked at... I need you to answer the question honestly, or leave. Yeah.
Okay, so I should just leave.
Have you ever looked at...
I don't think... He refused. I'm pretty sure he refuses to answer this question. I'm pretty sure he will always refuse to answer questions like this. Or if someone asks, like, are you a pedophile? I'm pretty sure he doesn't straight answer that one either. The point is, it's about having the... Dude.
I don't think he's going to indulge that.
Mind you, a month before this article, he made a review of...
Yeah, he doesn't answer... he does not give the answers to that, because it's like... He says, like, engage with the ideas I'm saying. I don't want you shit testing, like, who I am, my personality, what things I've done in the background. Engage with the ideas. Engage with what I'm saying.
Movie Sound of Freedom, which is ostensibly about a US government agent who hunts down human traffickers. Despite being produced by a relatively small studio, the movie was highly successful at the box office and went on to be very well liked by audiences. Of course, Max saw it differently. In his review, he said, "The Sound of Freedom panders to our collective delusion that CSA can be stopped with violence, that you can out-violence the violence. I should disclose here that I strongly dislike Donald Trump. I find the QAnon conspiratorial..."
Mr. Girl answered that question before. He said they were her pictures of her art that she wanted published. Okay.
Anti-pedo,
So framing that as revenge porn's a bit strange.
The supporters very disconcerting.
If that's true, that's a chatter. If that's true, that's a chatter.
All looks to me like an excuse to join an insane cult so you don't have to deal with complex problems in the real world. I voted for Biden because I think Trump doesn't respect the rule of law and has no morals. However, Biden has sniffed, kissed, and fondled too many children in public to stay in my good graces. I think he is a creep who has, at best, been inappropriate with kids. In private, the truth is probably worse. Common things being common. While Max is just addressing how the movie became politicized so it's not completely out of place, it's strange that he simultaneously says he voted for Biden and that he believes Biden is a creep. Usually those two things are mutually exclusive and cancel each other out. And another section...
Sorry, who are the options? Pedophile or pedophile? Excuse me? You don't get a choice on that one. You don't get a choice on that one in the election, Tom.
He speaks about the personal experience.
Also, thank you, Diminished Dark Knight, for the $50 super sticker here of a Shiba Inu in a samurai outfit with 2 sparklers saying, "You're amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hugely appreciated."
Experiences he had with people he knew who had suffered this kind of thing, noting that their families usually ignored or pretended it didn't happen, which he interprets as the default reaction, and even gives it some degree of justification. However, there is an alternative explanation that presents itself once you factor in that multiple of the examples Max gives are girls he dated. It could just be that girls who are neglected by their families are overrepresented in Max's dating history. This isn't to say that cases like that don't exist,
that's true.
But Max's perspective could definitely be skewed here. Before he closes the review, he says that the movie is homophobic and refers to one of the children who were trafficked as attractive. I'm obviously singling out the most inflammatory things he said here, but again, it's his intent to be inflammatory and say these things. I'm just documenting it. In September of 2023, he was banned from YouTube once again for violating the child safety policy of the TOS.
The "I'm just documenting it" defense is fucking retarded. You'd make a decision about what things to include and not include. You have not included a lot of things here. Let's be serious.
Momentum he had built up from his songs and his association with Destiny that could establish him as a content creator was on his deathbed. In April, he made a hardcore pivot and rebrand.
Yeah, unironic Bo Black's defense. I'm just reading tweets. I'm just reading tweets.
TikTok account called Observer Physics, where he supposedly was going to focus exclusively on subjects like astronomy and astrophysics. But he was apparently banned from r/physics for claiming to make grandiose discoveries in the field without backing his claims up.
This was so the mystical black hole arc. Dude, this was epic.
And from r/physics for claiming to make grandiose discoveries in the field without backing his claims up whatsoever. Additionally, he claimed to have debunked a discovery made by Albert Einstein, which is just really funny. It was alleged that Max was trying to get legitimate academics to visit his livestream to discuss his ideas, but he couldn't contain himself, getting into fights with them in emails before the streams could happen. As of the writing of this video, there are only 2 uploads to his TikTok, and though they were successful, it seems he's abandoned this project. I hope it comes back though. I'm excited for Mr. Girl's Time Cube and Terry Davis arc. If he doesn't do it himself, one of his sycophantic followers who imitate him online, because yes, these people exist, will probably do it before he can. Besides his physics side project, in July 2024, Max dropped an EP titled The Blackface, where he raps alongside a black version of himself using an AI voice. The track list includes songs such as One of the Good Ones, Some of My Best Friends Are Black, and most importantly, Shake Your Flaps. One of the latest developments for Max is that he announced he was working on putting together a documentary. Care to guess what it's about?
Is about child sexual abuse.
What a topic to become a one-trick pony about. Also in July of 2024,
it's gonna be about his fucking principal. It's gonna be epic.
A Substack article about Dr. K from the YouTube channel Healthy Gamer GG.
Wait, we've totally skipped Reckless. Wait, we totally missed Reckless. Wait. How? What? We totally missed all of the Dr. K Reckless stuff?
Been calling out for allegedly mishandling a therapy case in 2020 that's related to a person's death. However, due to how little this case has to do with Mr. Girl directly, besides the fact that it's extremely complicated and to some extent a legal issue to tackle, I'll refrain from going too deep here. Since this announcement, things became quiet as far as controversy went, but it's only a matter of time until he gets another 15 minutes for saying something creepy, or Shaylin leaves him and drops an hour-long video explaining how evil he is or something. Until then, I've been TurkeyTom.
Well, yeah, obviously the second half of that video. The first half was really good, gave a good account of like big events that happened around Mr. Girl. The second half was pretty rough, I think, personally. From one, misrepresenting the point of cuties and ignoring the fact that Mr. Girl's criticism of it is much stronger than what TurkeyTom is claiming his criticism of it is, to skipping key parts of the Destiny dramas, obviously not representing both sides in any way, not even attempting to represent both sides, because he knows that everyone's accepted the Destiny narrative is the correct one, and so you can just sort of put out a video that says, yeah, Destiny did nothing wrong, we already knew this, and no one will criticize it. But he didn't sit there calling him a pedophile. He didn't harp on the wife beater thing like crazy. Probably not the best presentation of the wife beater video, because it is literally a video called How I Learned to Stop Hitting Women, where he explicitly says it was bad. This is behavior that he was engaged in his past. He was abusive at the time. This is how he learned to stop. Like, I mean, I don't understand. Well, this is like the Destiny stuff, right? It's like he's open about it, says it's bad, and gives a detailed commentary on why it was fucked up to do. Like how it's not really a big attack, I feel like. But hey, look, as far as this could have been worse. Other people would have made this video worse. Other people would have made this video worse.